Chatting.
Come back in.
Roads. Roads always take over.
Well then, everybody, I'll just call this meeting to order. And just to start the proceedings for the day, I'll ask Sunny if you would like to open with a karakia.
Tēnā. Tēnei te karakia māpon. Kua hiku nei, kua hipa nei, kua haere nei mo te wāheke o tēnei karakia. E te atua ānei o tamariki e inoi atu nei ki a koe. Hei tohu, hei awhi te a mātou mahi katoa. A reira, he mihi atu ana ki te atua, te kaihanga o ngā me katoa. Te kai whakaora, a iu kara e tini. I nei rā, tēnei hui hui.
Thank you for that, Sonny. I'll call for, do we have any apologies for today's meeting? Fairly full crowd. Being none, I'll move on. Confirmation of the agenda. We will have the agenda in front of us. I don't see any reason for diverting from that. Would someone move that the agenda be confirmed for today's meeting? So it's moved, Ash seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against, carried. Now the next item is the conflict of interest declaration. I'd like to read, which as follows. Elected members are reminded of the need to be vigilant to stand aside from decision-making when a conflict arises between their role as councillor and any private or other external interest they might have. It is also considered best practice for those members of the executive team attending the meeting to also signal any conflicts that they may have item before the council. So, having said that, are there any conflicts to declare? Being none, we'll carry on. Great start. Okay, firstly, so the first substantial item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes from the meeting held on the 14th of November last year. Could I have a mover, please, for that conflict? It's Rick, and seconded by Rachel. Thank you. So the motion is that the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee confirms the minutes for the meeting held 2023 as a true and correct record. Put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So now we're on to something a bit more substantial. The Taharoa Domain Operations update for March. Now, the motion just calls for noting the report. It very possibly will generate some discussion, but I think that's enough for us to be working with for now. So just to get it on the table, and before Nadine gives her overview of her report and answers any questions, could I have a mover to the Taharoa Domain report for March 2024? I thought, Ash, your hand was a mover, a seconder. Yep. Rick, thank you. Okay. So we will put it there. So I'll call on, the item is now on the table. And Nadine, would you like to speak to your report? I'm not asking you to read it. I'm just asking you to get attention to items of particular interest.
Okay, Morena Committee, so through the chair, I trust you've all taken the time to read the report. It is fairly light, large, I guess the majority of the activity for the team for the last 3 months has been campground based, and due to the warm weather and lack of rain, it's been, from my experience anyway, since managing it, the busiest season in the campground. I guess a couple of things to note is the one medical event that we had, which was a member of the public that suffered leg cramp and then while swimming in the deep water, and he was taken away by emergency services, but as a precaution only. A positive, and which has come about from a previous governance meeting, is the changes made to the Mahana paddleboarders concession, so that licence and the thing around the health and safety. So that has been, we've had some really pleasing results there. The other thing that's been added into the report this month is the incident, the freedom camping incident, and Hayley has prepared a report, as I said, which is attached. The key takeaway from that is that there is a process gap there. And we were receiving conflicting information, and a need for there to be some form of protocol so that we all following the same process in the event that that happens again. But open to taking questions.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I have a few questions, if it's all right.
Sure.
So I noted the data is comparable to past years. So in terms of revenue, I don't think there should be much issue. Also noted the Pine Beach toilet is still an issue. It's not, I don't know when it's going to be done. The questions are, hot water tank, is it a big thing so that we can't provide hot water in basins? It's a very small issue. I don't think it should be even brought to the committee. It's a very minor issue. The weed control should be ongoing. I don't know why you can't have weed control in place when the people are there and things like that. Water safety, now in terms of feedback, I will actually like some feedback from the Taharoa on the operation is going. And EDC actually is appointed, the economic development person is there. You mentioned the report is to be appointed. Collaborations, you mentioned in introduction, LTP, some funding or, I mean, reputation is a key issue for us for Kaiwi Lake operation. So I don't think.
Just can we just stick to the questions for Nadine that she can answer?
Okay, let's go one by one then. In terms of operations, so what is stopping us to have a very smooth operation and these little things like hand basin, all those things crop up?
So if I just take them one at a time, I'll start with the weed control. That is an ongoing part of the maintenance work program, but it's just identifying that that is what the team are working on, have been working on for the last quarter. So it is ongoing, as you said. The requirement for hot water at the hand basins, that is a compliance. So that's in order for us to be compliant with the camping ground regulations, and as per the environmental health, that is a non-negotiable. So they're happy to provide us with, so we have been granted an exemption, but it is on the onus that we work towards being compliant in specific spaces, and hot water at hand basins is one of them. Why it hasn't been done to date is it's cost. It's not factored into where there is no, but it hasn't been budgeted. So yeah, that's why that hasn't been done with the, I take you on board what you've mentioned around the economic, what is it called? Economic development person. So I take that on board, and yeah, that was a typo. And with regards to funding, I think you're talking about Waikare, the event centre. So there it is in the, as part of the actions that have come from the reserve management plan, that is turned to some form of cultural and environmental facility. Again, there's no funding for it, so funding has been requested as part of the LTP process. Water safety, look, I'm touching a whole lot of wood and praying to the whoever and saying this, it's been a successful season, and I think we've received positive feedback, certainly from campers, day visitors, just on the reminders, on the emails, the comms that we're putting out, the signage, etc., the use of the life-saving equipment that's there. So yeah, for us, that's a marked improvement on previous years, but also the additional first aid training that was provided to staff and different community and iwi as well, that we've received favourable feedback of that, and that just gives people confidence that they know how to use the equipment. So it's about the equipment, not just the equipment being there, but people being able to use it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Through the chair, Nadine, we need to address on page 12, we've asked before for a cultural impact assessment on the lakes, and I see a comment from Snow there, but it's been raised again. I think we should pursue that. Is it okay to bring it up here, Mr. Chair, right now?
At this stage, you could perhaps ask Nadine where it's up to.
Nadine, could I ask you where it's up to?
Oh, so I'm just going to read the notes that are on here through the chair. So yeah, what we've, sorry, just a minute. I guess what the, if I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at, what, is this the first line of the cultural aims?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so the response that we got to that is that there would be a cultural impact assessment done any time there was any works to be completed out on the domain.
That's what Snow had said last time that we talked about this.
Yes, then that's that I guess that's the last, yeah, has there been any change to that? Not that we're aware of.
Want to add to that?
Madam through the chair, clarification, this I understand was a few years ago, and I actually raised the same question at another meeting that we had regarding the need to have a cultural impact assessment feed into the reserve management plan that we need to start kicking off, which is different in and of itself because it goes towards the planning as opposed to any specific works that are being undertaken. So I think that's the distinction there, which needs to be done. And then the second question is when is that being put onto our agenda to talk about, because we're coming up to the needing to start kicking that process off, and I'm hearing that there's a cultural funding going into the LTP for the cultural centre per an outdated reserve management plan. We really need to have a new updated reserve management plan to then feed into the LTP. Otherwise, by the time that process has been and gone, we've got a new management plan, and you know where I'm going with that.
Through the chair, so the reserve management plan is on the agenda for July. So the next meeting will be taking the next steps on what that process looks like, the timeframes, the timelines, and who needs to be involved, and hearing process, etc. So I'll be bringing that in July.
And then just one further point of clarification, there's two mana whenua representatives, so he's just the GM of, he's not the governance committee, so it needs to be a board decision that makes that. I understand there's a board member here today that hasn't been briefed on any of these sorts of things.
So through the chair, and just for clarity, do you mean hasn't been briefed on the reserve management plan?
Hasn't been asked directly by council, so the governance board so there's the Taharoa governance board that hasn't been asked, only the GM, but then there's also a mana whenua board for equity as well, so.
Not noted.
Through the chair, just a comment. At the last meeting, there was talk of the district plan underway by the council. We need to be consulted on that because it's a co-governance. So I don't know how far that we've gone down the track with the district plan. It's due.
Through the chair, the plan is for the district plan to be notified in November, so that's when all of those initial consultation pieces and engagement would happen.
I expect the initial consultation process would be before that, but there's still things in the washing machine at the moment, getting a few turns around and so on. It was just about back at the stage where we were at the end of the last term of council, as far as that goes. But that's not a question for Nadine to answer, but I'm happy to talk to you about that.
Through the chair, I just want to remind KDC it's a co-governance item. That's all I want to record.
Thank you. Well, I'd still be interested in any other questions for Nadine, if there are any questions, otherwise we can move on.
I just wanted to kind of discuss, because I think that this is the appropriate forum, the item attachment, I think it's C on the incident register.
Oh, that's part of her report, so
Yeah, and so I'm just reading, and I've seen that specifically the trespass was squashed by the council. Is that
Through the chair, yes.
great? Cool. I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank the council for doing that, because I find it extremely offensive that a trespass notice would be issued where whānau are exercising kaitiakitanga over there. They're not freedom campers either, so just a little bit of caution around the wording of the report is also noted. Thank you.
yeah, I sort of thought it was a bit of a misnomer to call it freedom camping.
Yeah, through the chair, if I can just respond to that.
Yeah.
So,
Please.
I guess I understand what you're saying. However, I guess from a staff's perspective, we need to look at everyone who comes onto the domain equally. And given that the team and myself have over the years have had many people, whether they are or not mana whenua, say that they are. And we have no way of distinguishing. So we were following the process that we have in place for, and I use this word termly, trespassing, because, and that's why I was saying there is definitely a process gap, so that we do have the ability to follow, to acknowledge that these people are mana whenua, and we do need to make sure that we're following the correct process.
Can I please respond to that?
Okay.
Thank you. So just a couple of things. So after the fact, this report's been written. So in hindsight, and given that we do know that that was mana whenua, point taken at the time. So in retrospect of writing the report, some just changing of the wording around that. And if there are policy gaps, then I think that mana whenua would be more than open to providing some guidance on where, you know, situations like that occur. Also point taken that in the past, you know, time and time again, these things have happened. We're moving into the future where mana whenua, and especially on a co-governance arrangement and over whenua, and where there's a treaty settlement, are not to be treated equally. There are very much distinguishing features. Tikanga is part of the common law in accordance with the Supreme Court decision. So we're moving into different times now, and we need to come up to the present. Thank you.
Noted.
I would comment in that respect that I don't think you're being ambitious enough. I think that for me, the desired outcome is that it actually becomes a sole ownership situation rather than a co-governance situation.
One step at a time.
Question?
Through the chair, thank you. Since I thought it will be raised later on, this incident, freedom camping, but I think it'll be good for the knowledge of people who don't know much, because Sunny was involved in there. Would you just clarify it to a lay person what was the issue and how it got resolved?
No, I wasn't there.
Somebody was. I think it's named.
So through the chair,
I'm there in Wairu and spirit,
So that's
not there in Tinana.
through the chair, permission to answer the question of what kaitiakitanga means.
Oh, for sure.
So exercising kaitiakitanga means that it's a customary tradition of ours that goes back through our cultural practices. So it's occupying and spending time on the whenua in which, so we are tangata whenua. So whenua is land and tangata is people, so people of the land. So it's one of the most important and strongest cultural practices and customs that we have. Is just, yeah, in the most basic sense.
The report, the way it's presented to the chair is maybe a little biased. It says they were drinking and all those kind of things. Those people, yeah.
We drink as Māori too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a short update on that in regards to kōrero o pera. And this is through the chair, sorry. In regards to kaitiakitanga. Any tātai, any whakapapa, ngā wā o mua, kaimanaki o tēnā of those lakes was parore,
Was which?
was parore,
Karore, yeah.
right? And then who came to cause them to exchange? So the manakitanga, the kaitiakitanga, through parore, was the main rangatira o tēnā wā. Hore kau te wangawanga i tētahi hapu, i tētahi iwi. No one argued because that was him. And he allowed people in, even the crown. So the kaitiakitanga was bestowed on him from the word go. And when we get a bit mixed up with tangata whenua and mana whenua. Mana whenua means the mana is there and it'll always be there. Tangata whenua, when you get moved off your land, you're no longer tangata whenua. But when you are in the lands that are within the mana whenua, you can always be tangata whenua. So there's a little bit of a misunderstanding of kaitiakitanga. So when Parore gave up those lands, it was based on the Reservations Act and maintaining it for future generations in its current form. Not to say no one's allowed to go there anyway, but in its current form, it had all the life. Everything was running, was pure. There was kai gathered, there was tapu, there was urupa, there was death, there was living within that way. So it's very hard to explain the true essence of mana whenua. And you know, none of you would be here if it weren't for him. Not one of you. You know, and it's getting forgotten. And he was very humble and very generous. But he held rangatiratanga. And we are all his descendants. And we are here. So, you fellas don't know any of your history.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed. It's even in the reserve management plan. But no, what was doing was just to give lip.
So, sorry, just a clarification again. Just one, the reason I was asking, Sunny, is it is mentioned in the report that you had permitted Mr. Thana stay, but I think it's lack of communication. That lack of communication for this report, if that was the case, there was an issue.
No,
Have a policy in place so that there's not this retrospective having to ask individuals.
That's right.
It's clear and concise in the policy and the process.
Not have gone to police. That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Just through the chair, whenever someone's staying outside of our campgrounds, we have two designated campgrounds, one at Pine Beach and one at Promenade Point. And our preference is that any campers are staying within those campgrounds for security, for our staff, for the campers themselves. You know, there's a whole lot of reasons why we want people to stay within the realms of the campgrounds areas. So when there's a group that have gathered and set up campsites outside of those areas, we will go and investigate and we will talk to them. But Councillor Taharoa is right. There is a massive process gap here. And so in the July meeting, we will be bringing a proposal for a process for kaitiaki stays, which I've already started talking to Stove at Taharoa about what that process might look like, but we will do more idea around that and talk to more people to be able to understand what is the process, what are the customary rights there, have some kind of formal form that's submitted to the Taharoa Domain Campground so they're aware, and perhaps a place for kaitiaki stays to happen so that it's not just an invitation for some people from Germany in a van and they see a campsite in a random spot. Oh, hey, I'll set my campsite up there. So it's mitigating a lot of those issues around there. And then if we have a process, we can submit that to the police and they will support us with that process as well. So Councillor Taharoa is right. We're missing a gap in that process. We don't want to discourage kaitiaki stays. We don't want to discourage anyone from coming to the domain, but we want to make it safe and we want to make it secure for everyone that's coming into the domain.
Thank you, Hayley. That's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Well, that takes me back to the kaupapa e pāna ki te CIA. The impact assessment, community impact assessment. Should be a MIA.
Assessment, CVA.
Yeah.
Through the chair, just following up on Sunny's comments there.
Getting a little bit out of shape here, but it's good discussion, so yeah.
The reserve management plan, the last one was done in 2016.
What discussion?
And on page 3, the historical, it's all there. Sunny was saying. His alliances were with all the tribes from everywhere.
Good.
One day they might be a skirmish on the battlefield, next day they were welcome. He turned no one away. They might be fighting next week, but they still ate food.
Sorry, just one last question for the report. Can you confirm whether there was, whether the cultural centre was used for a wedding that then drank alcohol? And if so, why?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware.
So if there was,
So it happened and the fact that the council's not aware of it is,
Really bad.
you know, was bad.
yeah, what we went the hiring date, because I guess if I could just respond to that through the chair, when there are requests, so there is no automatic booking up at Waikato, so there is a request made and we ask questions around what the event is for. There are a lot of events that we don't decline, there are a lot of bookings that we decline due to the nature of the event. A wedding would be one if we were made aware. So we do ask things like 21st birthday parties, engagement parties, it's a no, and then we have reasoning and we provide reasoning because that's not the what we want that facility used for. So if it was used then for those purposes and there was alcohol consumed, there would have been, I can only say that we were not aware of it as part of the booking, and they would have done a really good job of cleaning up so that we wouldn't be aware of it when we checked the building the next day prior to giving back the bond.
Apparently there were bottles everywhere that the locals picked up.
So there's actually only, I'm talking about the building, so there's no alcohol allowed in the building.
So just through the chair, we'll have to investigate because it's not been raised with me through council at all. No
Well, the
complaints.
locals picked up the bottles, so there's the reason why.
And through the chair, it's the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
We'll have to, do you know the date? Oh, there you go.
Okay, I'll read
Through the chair, when we granted that right to have functions there, it was on the proviso.
It's cultural.
Alcohol.
Yeah, and that it's a
See it.
cultural purpose or a community purpose or a community group, that it's not just some private
Wedding.
function, so.
Absolutely.
Yep, okay, well, it sounds like that's news to our staff. We now have that information, we'll be able to follow up.
Through the chair, I think the KDC should provide security to oversee that. Just can't go the next day. It's all over.
Oh, if there was an event through the chair that had numbers that we had concerns about, then we would definitely have staff on and have security, like through the Taharoa ambassadors or whatnot. So that would be part of our process, and we have a full assessment and checklist that would trigger that. So I think that
maybe if we have a local that can be a reference check to confirm that that event is, because they've obviously given a fake reason for the booking.
we'll definitely have a look and tidy up our booking process to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, I think this had a reasonable sort of a threat around me. So I'll now put the motion to the vote. No, sorry, we actually asked Nadine to step down, and if anyone like any statement to the, we have used those up already. Whether we had a mover? Who was that?
Me, I think.
Well then, would you like to speak to the motion, which is to note the Taharoa Domain Operations Report for March 2024?
Thank you. Yeah. No, I'm delighted to see that the Kaiwi Lake is still performing in terms of revenue. People are still coming to large numbers pre-COVID standard. What I'm not happy about, obviously, is little things which are not happening to make it compliant. And I hope things will be worked together with all the interested parties to make it a happier place for people to come and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. And the seconder? It was you, Rick. Did you want to speak to the motion at all? I mean, it is just noting the report. We've had a good discussion, I think, already.
No, I think we've covered it all there.
Okay, thank you. Well, anyone else want to speak to the motion?
No.
I'll ask for those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Seeing none? Carried. So we can move on now to the Department of Conservation letter regarding the Dune Lakes Galaxias. So you've circulated with the letter, relatively brief and not a lot of fun. It's on the doc here to speak to.
There's no one from Doc, no.
Okay, to kick things off, I will ask for a mover in terms of noting this report.
I can.
Letter. Okay, Ash, and a seconder being?
Yep.
Rick, thank you. So now it falls to Hayley, I think, to provide us with context and answer any questions we might have.
Yeah, so I'll take the report as read. So Doc sent through a letter at the end of last year, and this was off the back of quite a few customer requests coming into the Department of Conservation, and also myself, and further information about the Doc-led scientific group. And so the letter that they have provided to this governance committee is confirming that the scientific advisory working group, which was established in 2020, currently has no funding, has lost many of its members, and there's been no meeting since February 2022. And so their letter is to advise that due to the lack of resourcing and funding, they are disestablishing their significant science and research program.
Okay, thank you. So questions?
Thank you. Through the chair, I have a couple of questions. The first question is if the committee's been established since 2020 and it's now it's establishing itself, where is the report for the work that it has done to date on Taharoa? So, you know, they've received the funding for upwards of 4 years now. So I'd like some documentation produced, that they don't just get to send a letter to us and say, this has now been disestablished. Second question I have is, what is Te Roroa's response? Have they been consulted, and what is their position on this, or what are they doing about that? Thirdly, given the profit that Kaipara District Council received from the campground, I don't think that it's acceptable that this continues to be within Northern Regional Council's responsibility when this district is profiting from the environment and doesn't just get to turn its eye on this, because what's happening with our taonga species, there's an obligation there under Te Tiriti to protect them. So I'm really quite worried and disappointed that there's now no funding, no one's doing anything about it, and they're just walking away.
So through the chair, so for clarity, this isn't Northern Regional Council, it's Department of Conservation. So Departments of Conservation are responsible for the plants and aquatic species within the water. I'm not sure whether or not they sent this letter beyond the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee, whether or not it went to Te Roroa, and so I don't have their response. I note that Northern Regional Council, Whangarei District Council, Niwa, Doc, Te Roroa, North Tech, also with expertise within the group. So I'm certain that there's a lot of information. We have requested for them to provide information to the group, and we'll continue to do so on behalf of this group off the back of the letter as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Rachel?
Thank you. Is there a process here that we could actually respond to this letter and seek, in some way for them to go to the government and ask for money to keep some of this this work going?
We could send a letter to DOC on behalf of the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee, asking them to seek to extend the program.
And to provide
By the data, the previous data. Yep, we can absolutely do that. Be bound to respond to us or provide that information.
But I think, yeah, a response would be good, and asking those questions just to see if there's something we can do.
through the chair.
Yeah, but actually, Ash was next.
It's based on that though. The terms of reference were that they had to report back to us, and they haven't.
Yeah, so
That's part of the funding that they received.
So through the chair, they have presented to this committee on 2 occasions. So I guess in the 3 years and they've given their quarterly meetings, we've definitely missed quite a bit of information. So I'm not sure how, I haven't seen the breakdown of how the funding was approved and how their program was funded. So I'll have to check what the specific requirements were in and around that.
It may be that they'll just recycle what they've already sent to us. However, that would at least know just how far they've got.
It says in their letter what the terms of reference were. It was to investigate research options and then make recommendations to the.
But they have provide us, even with my time here, with some pretty raw data. I'll just take the question from Ash then. Right?
Thank you, Chair. So dune galaxia is one thing. I think there was some report presented by NRC consultant as well. Are they working together, or there are different bodies researching the same thing?
No, so DOC leads the research. NRC may have been working in partnership with them, the same as KDC and Te Roroa, but DOC are the lead agencies and do own that data and research.
The final end of this research.
It is, according to the letter, that's my interpretation of it, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, through the chair. With DOC, it's been a couple of years since they were last involved. It seems to be NRC that have come to the party on this. We haven't seen Stephen Saul at a meeting for a couple of years.
That's right.
He used to come quite often. But they started off saying they were short of funds. But it's a very big department.
So was there a question for Hayley in that?
Just shake up DOC and just get a straight answer.
I just said,
Sorry, Hayley.
Thank you. Yeah, I would definitely go back out to them and reach out to them. I'll provide a draft response to this committee for your feedback, to send if that's appropriate.
yeah, so procedurally, I'm wondering if we need to entertain either motion or actually just by agreement of the mover and the seconder to add some words to it to ensure that we are going to be following up with. Would the mover and seconder be happy for us to add some words? Because all we've got at present is just
You note the letter.
to note the strategic, wrong page. Yep. Note the letter received from the doc on dated 40th of December last year. So add some words such as, and requests doc to provide a report on the progress it made. Or
Through the chair.
like that.
They have clarified in para, will endeavor to provide biodiversity, freshwater, technical advice to Taharoa Domain Committee as time allows.
Yeah.
At the moment, they are not doing it.
They're not doing it now, but they should have produced something by now. I think that's the point, and we're not.
Chair, I think we sent a letter to them about 3 months ago requesting that at one of the meetings.
Prior to the meeting.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that was 2022, maybe.
Okay,
I think it was
time flies.
a couple more meetings ago, Matua, but yeah, we have reached out to them formally, and I guess this is now their formal response, saying that they don't have the resources or the funding to continue. So I'm happy for whichever recommendation you propose, either formally responding to them or formally requesting further information.
Okay, so well, our minute taker needs some specific words. So we have, sorry, the Taharoa Domain Governance Committee notes that received from the Department of Conservation received on the 14th of December 2023 and requests the department to provide its final report or report on progress made.
Its report.
From the progress group. I'm just trying to pick the sense of the meeting.
Well, and that we
So
direct,
far,
direct KDC staff to draft a letter.
Well, that's implied in that. That was my intention, to keep it simple. Because that's an action that statement is an action required of our staff to implement.
I was just saying we can be more direct in saying, now they're not taking any further. So rather than progress, just a final report, what they have done in
No, it's
4 years.
say from top, just establishing the working committee.
The final report, the
Please think and go back into A.
Mm.
Yep. No, Bruce here. Notes letter received from the Department of Conservation.
Just establishing the working group.
And we can delete attachment A from that. I don't know if we need an A and a B. I would just go
yeah.
carry it on, just basin. Yeah. Actually, put this in one sentence, we could just say, I request them to provide their final report. Them to provide their final report. Yep, we'll see if that gets a response. And that's enough direction for you, isn't it, to understand the sense of things? Okay, so that's the motion that we now have. I think that perhaps it's time for you to step down. Hayley, now, is there any further discussion that hasn't been covered in the questions side of things?
Through the chair, I just want, when we send it, we should also ask, not have to be motion, is there any concurrent research going on with any other organization on this? So we are not working on cross purposes. Yeah, just for information.
Making best use of
money.
What's out there.
Sources. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other? Actually, so I should be sticking to the format of asking the mover of the motion, which was you. You just
speak about it.
Yeah, to speak to it.
No, I have noted it. It's a mixed feeling. I mean, it's not a good thing that the research is stopping on a contentious issue. The way they have described it is probably not contentious. They're talking about is indeterminate. They're not very sure whether it is extinct or not. And also looking at, I think the government, new government is probably looking at cutting expenditure on wherever they find. So it may be an initiative on that, but I'll be happy to see anything is done conclusively rather than inconclusively. So if there is anything going on around there, if we can benefit from them, that'll be a good idea. If it's not happening, well, that's tough luck at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. And seconder was you, I think, Rick. Do you have anything?
Rick.
Just sent a PPS. Stephen, would be nice to see you again.
Okay.
He used to come all the time, so.
Yes.
It comes down to the efficiency of the organisation and what they can actually do and what they can't actually do. The fact of the matter is they've been given legislative responsibility for the control and eradication of pests, which goes to all what's been happening here. Hence evolvement to the devolvement of the Mātauranga board, which was always going to happen, in my opinion, because they weren't on the same page. They were never on the same page. There seemed to be two kaupapa there. One is for the survival of the trout, and the other was for the survival of the Tuneless Galaxis. Couldn't happen both ways.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a statement?
Through the chair, the DOC have had their hands full the last couple of years with Mount Ruapehu, trying to get somebody to buy it. A lot of money involved there, and also to finance people in.
Oh, they're always.
I think they've gone a different path.
Yeah.
That be right, say?
To an extent, but they still have their rohe that they're in charge of. You know, and going through to the main kaupapa is the extermination eradication of pests to enhance the environment for the future.
I guess it's familiar territory from a council perspective, where it's an organisation that's given a mandate to carry out certain responsibilities, but not the funding.
Yeah.
Give effect to it. Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, I'll put it to the vote. So if we could just have it back up on the screen again, just since it's a change from what was in the recommendation. Perhaps you can just. Okay. So can you see the motion there that we're noting the letter and regarding disestablishing the working group and request them to provide their final report? So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Next item.
Through the chair, seeking clarification of the inconsistency in the report versus the versus the paper.
Are you talking about the item we've just received?
No, this
Done.
one,
The next one.
that feeds into the motion because the update on the activities gives 3 options and then there's no corresponding options in your overview. It just says,
Okay, well, how about just try that process? We'll let Hayley introduce the report and
usually we do the motion first before the
yeah,
report.
no, I think because this and the next one too might be a better deal to actually get her to do her report. Then we'll perhaps consider a motion.
Okay.
How about we'll try that, eh?
On the agenda.
Yeah, that works. Right, I see we do have some guests
Yes.
presenting to us.
Morena, this is Riley and Nikki Fitzgibbon from NRC who have presented to this committee before. So
Okay,
formal.
I'm not going to call for mover and second to the motion. I'm going to open the meeting to our guest presenters for them to speak to it and for them to then be asked questions. And then we will formulate our motion.
Okay.
Fine.
I'll hand it over to Nikki to provide
Welcome.
with her paper.
Through the chair. Thank you for the opportunity to come back to you and present on what happened over the summer and hopefully support some dialogue in terms of what we do in terms of next steps. So following the meeting, I think that happened in the end of December, where the council chose to take a education and engagement approach to managing the biosecurity risk posed by the gold clams over summer. NRC went back to our council to see if we could access additional funding to support those measures or over and above what we would consider good biosecurity practice. And we were successful on the 12th of December to access additional funding to support activities. What that did mean though is that we didn't have long to implement those activities, sort of a couple of weeks. And I just want to put my thanks to members of the committee and the stakeholders and those who are here today and those who are not here today to help support implementing these actions, because we had to do an awful lot in a very, very short space of time. So some of the activities that we took, so KDC took a really great opportunity to contact all of their campground bookings and visitors, particularly those from the Waikato, to remind them of their responsibilities around check, clean, dry, and if they are coming up into our region, that they need to undertake these things before coming to our region and visiting the lake. We also put out some media, so traditional media, newspapers, radio interviews, that sort of thing, as well as posters, pamphlets, and taking that real information approach. But the biggest activities actually that happened over the summer was we installed a temporary washdown station at the lookout. That's at the lookout at the top of right near the gate to the entrance to Taharoa, so that anybody coming past who had, or that we could identify as having watercraft, and that included kayaks and stand-up paddle boards, boats and jet skis. So when they accessed that area, we installed a water tank as well as a tap. We got a what do you call it? A water blaster that was of a commercial water blaster to install basically a biosecurity check. So any of those visitors where you identified that having watercraft, because that's what is considered our highest risk coming into the lake. They were pulled over aside, so trying not to, impact visitor experience, because obviously that is something that is also important. Pulling them over to the side so they didn't lock up, so those visitors who didn't have boats and things were able to continue to freely go past. Pull them over, do a biosecurity check, so that involved undertaking a questionnaire, if they, asking them where they were from, so trying to assess where the visitors are coming from. Are they going anywhere else? So getting that information. So they might be visiting Taharoa, but are they going anywhere else? So for a wider, I guess, biosecurity approach, understanding where those visitors also might be visiting within the region, what they like to do at the lake, so what activities are considered their preference. So whether that's swimming or jet skiing, so trying to understand the kind of uses that are happening excuse me, at the lake, where they're from, obviously, and where are they going anywhere else. And so the results, a summary of those results are produced in this paper, but if anyone is interested, I can certainly provide the full scope of the data. But we had some really interesting data, or I guess results coming out of this data, where 47% of those visitors to the lake identified. Now, those are visitors who completed the survey who had watercraft, so that's not every single visitor. So this is just a snapshot of those visitors at the lake. They came from within the Northland region, but that was it was really interesting to see how that changed over time. So initially, our early results were actually from out of the region, and then that sort of changed as the the holidays were over. It sort of more Northlanders came to the region. We had a lot of, the next highest percentage was 45% was from the Auckland region, or what was considered the Auckland region. And a lot of those actually were day visitors. So people were willing to come up on a day to visit the lake, which sort of changes that risk profile when they're sort of travelling quite long distances in short spaces of time, rather than coming and visiting and staying within the region. And then actually the next highest region for visitors was actually the Waikato, and we had at least 25 visitors from the Waikato of those 2,000 that we surveyed. And it was really interesting to talk to those who identified as being from the Waikato, and obviously, we have to take that from a grain of salt and hope that people are being honest with their answers with us. But there were definitely visitors from that 25 who had been in the infected region just 2 days prior, which means that they had fulfilled the requirements under what is the controlled area notice. So within the controlled area notice, they have to check clean dry, and it has to be left to dry for 48 hours. So technically there was no reason or no ability for us to turn them away, because they had, as far as we could ascertain, they had fulfilled their obligations. But you're relying on people saying that they're doing the right things. So that was some really interesting results. And then we had people from as far flung as sort of Canterbury. So we had visitors from Canterbury. So there was sort of like the whole gambit in terms of people. The other activities that we did, we're about to, I've received permission, thankfully, to do the eDNA surveillance. So this is the post-summer surveillance. So we did a pre-summer, there was pre-summer surveillance that happened, and this is taking a water quality sample, and we will be doing all 3 lakes. So Taharoa has been sampled pre to summer activities, and there'll be post-summer eDNA surveillance, so taking a water sample and testing it for gold claims. We'll be doing 2 sites at Taharoa because there's sort of 2 main areas of activity rather than just at the boat ramp, which was what was previously sampled. So we'll do the boat ramp, and then at probably the main beach, which is where a lot of people still launch jet skis and use watercraft and do all sorts of things. So there'll be 2 lake locations on Taharoa. We'll also be testing Waikare and Lake iwi as well. So that's sort of, I guess, hopefully giving us a bit of an idea, and we'll also do visual surveillance. So at the same time, doing a bit of a drag survey with some nets to see if there's anything there. But obviously that only works if the clams are of sort of visible size, which will have meant that the incursion has been there for longer than we've realised and not picked up. So it's just, you know, using two tools, because eDNA is not infallible. It's just one of the tools, and there's sort of caveats behind it. So we want to really make sure that when we're doing surveillance, that we're sort of doing best practice in terms of surveillance. So that's sort of, I guess, a bit of a summary over what we did. Those biosecurity checks ran from the 23rd of December all the way up until Waitangi weekend. So kind of covering that main really busy period. But as we know, with Northland, our weather is quite, mild. And so people sort of tend to do water activities almost all year round. But we'll be having a debrief after the session. It would have been nice to have the debrief prior to this, so I could have come to you with additional recommendations. But we will be having a debrief on the summer operations, and also looking at, what next, and if there are any other activities that we're going to do. And that's what I wanted to come and talk to this committee about, is our recommendations in terms of future actions. I think as Ruben will sort of, I guess, support and take over, but our recommendation is to continue activities. I think we can clearly show the value of having a presence at the lake, and definitely working in partnership, but it's how we actually facilitate those activities and what activities that we want to take, and looking for this committee to take recommendations to council.
Kia ora, Nikki. Kia ora, Chair. I'll just add to that. So, and this might help with the kōrero around framing up the resolutions for the committee. So we've put forward three broad options there. One is effectively don't do anything from this point on. The other is effectively what I would describe as bare minimum. Both of those options, from our perspective, are insufficient to prevent an incursion. So our recommendation for the board to consider is option 3, which is a partnership model, for want of a better word. It acknowledges that NRC isn't the only entity here with responsibilities here. The domain committee, and by virtue of its interests in the wider domain, Kaipara District Council has a clear responsibility, and obviously Mana Whenua through Kaitiaki have a clear responsibility there too. And our recommendation is, in order to provide an appropriate level of risk management, that we do need to be prepared, and we need to work in a partnership. If we had an incursion in Auckland, at this point in time, we would be unprepared to manage a response to Lake Taharoa. And so with summer winding down, we actually have an opportunity to catch our breath. We were in a bit of a rush last year because of the risk that was posed. We put forward a recommendation of closing the ramp as a sort of band-aid to manage risk. But now we've actually got an opportunity to catch our breath, work alongside each other in a partnership approach, and come up with a plan that everyone has support for. And I guess what we're seeking today is the committee's endorsement in respect of those options, because that will enable us as staff to work with our governance, and obviously for the committee to recommend back up to the council around that as an option. And it gives us a way forward. So that's really the take home, is doing nothing and doing the bare minimum will not prevent an incursion. The third option there will not eliminate the risk of an incursion, but it provides the level of risk management that we consider to be appropriate. I'll just leave it at that and happy to take questions.
Okay, just to frame this a bit, I think, because the recommendation as it stands that we have, which we can turn into a resolution, really doesn't go anywhere. I think that if we are to see any further response from this, that we need to kick it upstairs to the full council. And it's a question of which of the options that you are presenting that this committee might endorse.
Yeah, through the chair, and that's why this report was just for noting, because my expectation is that we would do the debrief and we would have an operational, I guess, HOI with KBC, iwi, DOC and NRC to come up with some costed out options and a clear approach to take to council. Because I think taking an endorsement just to do more without money behind that and how it's going to be delivered, I've just got concerns that just wouldn't get past a full Kaipara District Council.
Okay, that's key comments. So it's just that there's nothing in the recommendation that acknowledges those next steps. So, well, I think I'll open the meeting to questions for our guests, but with in mind that we're heading to a recommendation to council.
I think we should just move the motion from the report that the Taharoa Domain Governance Group, so that we can at least signal what the committee wants. Move a motion that the Taharoa Domain Governance Group, that the report update on biosecurity activities at Taharoa freshwater gold clam preparedness be received, and to support the collaborative planning approach to managing the risk posed by the freshwater gold clam at Lake Taharoa, particularly for the next summer season. Do I have a seconder?
Wait.
Okay.
That's
It's passed, sorry.
no,
Motion has been,
I have not received it.
there's a motion on
No,
the table.
No. What I said was, I think I mapped out the course. Can we just hold, I mean, that may well be where we end up, but I would like to hear from other members in terms of questions to our guests with a view to finalising the committee's recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded.
No, I have some questions through the chair.
You can carry on having your questions like we usually do, but there's a motion on the floor now.
It's really rude, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Moving a motion that's on the report as a recommendation
No.
from Northern Regional Council, and this is the committee that has the mana over Kaiwi Lakes, and we're again supposed to defer it to the full council.
Correct.
What is the point of this committee then? If I'm so rude as to move a motion on a recommendation, don't call me rude.
As your chair, I laid out the process that we.
You're not my chair.
Okay, jolly good.
You're the chair of the Taharoa Governance Committee, of which I am a member.
Well, that being the case, I think I'll just,
So all those in favour of the motion? Is that the next step?
Can we please have the motion up on the screen? Just
It's on the report that we've received.
It would not actually.
What do you?
The chair has to decide whether, is the chair leaving?
yeah.
I'll assume the position of chair, and as.
Can we take it, can I suggest 10 minutes break? Can we come back and look at it?
Well, he hasn't asked,
Or are we finishing the meeting?
he hasn't asked for an adjournment formally.
I haven't asked for an adjournment of the meeting.
So I'll accept the role of chair in your absence,
No,
because we're in the middle of a motion.
no.
So all those,
A point of order, if one?
Yep, I'm
raise your hand.
in agreement with the motion.
All those against?
Against?
I just think the process
The process is not being
is
followed, so
diverted.
we leave it for the chair to decide. You can't take over chair. It's point of order at some point. I don't know.
So the motion is carried. That's
Oh.
3-2.
It's not to say that it wasn't going to be carried. It was just that we haven't had any
You just
questions or.
asked for it to be deferred to the main council committee when,
This is not a coup. This is not a coup. It's a council meeting and it's not a coup.
oh, ask the chair to do his job, which.
You were
is appointing him.
very rude. I must say you were very rude to the chair.
Oh,
We need to just act integrity and respect here, okay?
Yes.
So
can we vote?
I walk out as well, if that's the case.
I can just
It's a joke of a meeting. Thank you.
Now you know